The world was collapsing. Civilization stood at the edge of extinction until the constellation deities intervened. Their divine gifts awakened humans into metahumans, wielders of celestial power. But among them, one man was different. He received nothing from the stars, no blessings, no favor. Instead, he awakened with a terrifying ability. He could absorb the powers of others metahumans, constellations, even gods. His name was Ojan. The world would come to know him as the heavenly demon. With stolen strength, he became unstoppable. Thousands of awakened warriors fell. Even the gods couldn't stop him. Until one final hero stepped forward. Lee Shin-hyuk. Chosen by the strongest constellation, Lee faced the heavenly demon in a battle that shook the heavens. He drove his spear through Ojan's heart, demanding, "Why did you destroy everything?" Fueled by rage and sorrow, Lee couldn't forgive the man who ruined the world. Then light descended. Vega, the goddess of harps, appeared. She praised Lee for ending the nightmare, for saving humanity. But the story isn't over. With a deadly look in his eyes, Lee wonders if he really saved the world, and seems to have enough of that bullshit of hers as he screams in agony, asking how this is salvation anyway. Then that Lee saved the world by killing the heavenly demon, the goddess grants him a wish via the Stars of Oaths. While the goddess activates the Star Oath, it is revealed to us that only the constellations of the North Star can use it, an oath that grants any wish. That's when Lee lets out that he's going to reverse everything, wishing to be sent back to the past. Staring at him with dubious eyes, the goddess is left baffled, and asks him if his wish is to regress. Being considerate, Vega questions him if he wants to live through the same cruel history again, and tries to make him understand that the future of that world could be even more painful or full of despair. However, Lee stands his ground and tells her that he's aware of this fact, convincing her that it will be different this time around. Well, it looks like the guy Lee Shin-hyuk wants to be a regressor, the one who goes against the fate of the world, the only being that can rewrite history with an end that was set in stone. As Shin-hyuk seems determined, muttering that he will change fate this time, Vega agrees to grant his wish via the Star of Oath. However, our guy interrupts in between and clarifies to the goddess that it isn't a wish, but what he's proposing to her, asking to bestow the stigma of the Vega Star upon him. Surprised to hear such a thing, the goddess reveals no human can withstand her stigma, and that is why even the heavenly demon couldn't obtain her stigma, adding that not even Lee, the savior, would be any different. Listening to this, Lee utters if he can't even do that, there's no point in going back in time to begin with. Affirming that the goddess knows this already. Rethinking her decision, Vega decides to bestow her powers and informs Lee that the moment he goes back into the path due to the oath, she will bestow the stigma of the Vega Star upon him, adding that she will personally look for him. As soon as Lee hears this, he is shocked as Vega will lose memories if she goes back into the past. However, she assures him that she might lose her memories of this timeline, but she has her stigma and her past self would be able to recognize that Lee is a regressor. She continues to explain that if Lee is able to withstand her stigma, her past self will take him as her disciple. Upon hearing this, Lee is left astounded to even think that he would be able to become the disciple of the Vega Star, one of the North Stars. Left in disbelief that the thing many metahumans wanted is now happening to him, our guy reckons that now all the preparations are complete. He recalls the heavenly demon, remembering his face vividly, and plans to find out where he was first registered as a metahuman. Determined to find him, the guy remembers his revenge and plans to kill the heavenly demon, the one who has taken everything from him with his own hands. Nonetheless, the goddess Vega begins to exercise the oath, granting him the wish. She tells the unheavenly star, Lee, to be careful. While the goddess casts the magic, our guy contemplates the things he's lost, things he failed to protect, and the numerous regrets he ponders upon over again and again. But this time round, he gets adamant to change them. After that, metahuman Lee Shin-hyuk's physical body is bestowed with Vega Star stigma, making his existing Pixis stigma disappear. While our guy loses his consciousness, suddenly, there's a warning about the power of stigma being too powerful, alerting that metahuman Lee's physical body is falling apart. Shortly, we are then traveled to Lee's flashback, where he narrates that his younger brother, Lee Woo-hyuk, who was strong enough to be chosen by one of the 12 zodiacs, was brutally killed by the heavenly demon. Traumatized, Lee Shin-hyuk witnesses his brother's body covered in blood and questions the monster why he killed his brother. That's when the heavenly demon responds to him, uttering that this wouldn't have happened if he had not abandoned him back then, referring to Lee Shin-hyuk. Watching the demon's face, Lee is hit by a sudden realization as he feels that he has seen that face before. Suddenly, his body enters the state of energy deviation, and witnesses someone in front of him as the energy is entered into him. Shocked to the core, Lee is left baffled as he thinks about what is happening, and wonders why he is acting like this all of a sudden. Well, it turns out that the heavenly demon in his thoughts has entered reality as he confronts him. To his surprise, the demon suddenly appears in front of him and abruptly, Due to huge emotional fluctuations, his energy deviation worsens as our guy begins to bleed at the mouth. However, he is still lost in the thought of the heavenly demon appearing out of nowhere, and at that moment, his energy change caused by the stigma of the Vega star goes berserk, as Lee's body completely falls apart. While the poor guy tries his best to withstand the stigma, his life seems to be in critical condition. On the other hand, the goddess Vega presumes that the chance of surviving is 1 in 1,000, even less than 1 in 10,000. Well, it looks like the goddess was right all along, as in the end, Lee did not become that one probability. And it turns out that the metahuman Lee Shin-yuk dies. Witnessing the metahuman die, the heavenly demon who just appeared out of nowhere is left in disbelief, and tells the poor dead guy that even if he was going to die, he should have died after killing all the wolves, ready to rip him apart. Scared to death, the demon who's not even a metahuman panics as the monsters approach him, blaming Lee for the situation to die at such a moment. Thinking if Lee would have something on him, he looks under his clothing and wonders if he wouldn't be stupid enough to come in with nothing but that useless stigma, because he's a metahuman after all. Suddenly, the heavenly demon notices a stigma on Lee's body, which leaves him quite surprised as he has never seen or heard of it before. Touching Lee's body, the guy gets notified about the beginning of the Black Heaven's enlightenment, informing that the Black Heavens have absorbed the stigma of the Vega star. Unaware of what's happening, his body absorbs the stigma of a Vega star. As the power of absorbed stigma is too powerful, the poor guy screams in pain, uttering that it fucking hurts. Enduring such a horrendous thing, the fella trembles with pain, thinking it was hellish. Finally, Vega star's stigma gets completely absorbed into his body and adjusted to match the enlightenment star of the Black Heavens. Annoyed, the heavenly demon isn't much surprised to see a status window, making him think that it's for metahumans. After he gets the stigma Lee had before, suddenly, a bright light appears and it emerges to be the goddess Vega. She comes after feeling the power of her stigma and lets out that heavenly demon has her stigma, something she never gave to anyone before. Calling out the unheavenly star, she thinks that the guy is Lee Shin-yuk and refers to him as the one who goes against fate, the only savior of the world that is fated to end. Vega believes that he's the regressor. Meanwhile, the clueless heavenly demon is left utterly confused, thinking that he's the regressor. We are taken to Kwon Jin, the heavenly demon's backstory, where he's in an orphanage and a bald man makes him understand that as an orphan he should take his place. He teaches Kwon the simple method of fooling people and letting them hear what they want to hear. Asking if he can do this, Oh-jin with a sneaky smirk on his face curses the orphanage director, saying fuck him. Well, it turns out that Kwon as an 8-year-old had a dark childhood. After that, he gets beaten by his teacher who asks him to start again and forces him to say that their orphanage is a good place. However, the troubled boy shows him the middle finger, making the teacher go mad as he rolls up his sleeves to beat the crap out of him. In the meantime, a girl enters the scene and instructs the teacher not to bully Oh-jin, calling him Baldy. The girl seems to be a badass as she hits the director, and while he blabbers something, she takes Oh-jin's hand and leaves, not caring what the hell that crazy bastard is saying. The girl who helps Oh-jin is Song Haeun, who is 10 years old. She's his only support who helps him endure this hell-like orphanage. Faking things, Oh-jin was forced to say good things about the director. However, deep down, he knew that the director abuses them just enough so they don't show any injuries. From that point on, he makes a decision that he won't die a shit death in a place like this. That's when the gate opened on Earth and monsters he'd never heard of poured out of it. Even when Earth became hell, the constellations that possessed the power of the star signs appeared. Metahumans, who awakened and received the constellation stigmata, started to appear here and there as well. And what Oh-jin did was to fool those metahumans and reap their benefits, since it was so much easier to survive among them. In the midst of fooling the metahumans and like a leech, he leeched others, taking his gains, and pretended to be a high-ranking metahuman. Having such a devious mind, Oh-jin created a party and then pretended to help the metahumans, taking a decent amount of rewards, and ran away. That day, like any other, he fooled a pushover and crossed paths with Lee Shin-yuk, his next victim. Oh-jin fools him by revealing that he's Aquarius's disciple, one of the 12 astrological signs, leaving Lee more shocked than ever. Little did Lee know that he was making a fool out of him. Oh-jin tells him that there's no need to be surprised, and even though he's one of the 12 astrological signs, he's still a one star. Smoothly lying about it, Kwon himself was a non-metahuman, but what he learned was becoming a perfect con man. Nonetheless, Lee introduces himself as the disciple of Pixis and feels kinda embarrassed as compared to the 12 signs. It's nothing. Upon hearing this, Oh-jin hypes him up and excitedly mutters that Pixis stigma controls orientation and direction, adding that no matter what weapon he uses, it's like they're using their own hands and feet. Well, it looks like this guy has caught his prey and decided to start with his plan, introducing himself as Kwon Jin-oh, using a fake just in case. Believing that it's fate that they met like this, Kwon offers him to create a party, which makes Lee confused about why he would want to create a party with him. Continuing with his fake story, the scammer reveals that it's a little embarrassing to say, but he's not great at using stigma yet, so even though he's awakened for a year, he's still an A1 star. It is then revealed to us that A star is a class, a type of level, that starts at 1 star and continues all the way up to 12 stars. Metahumans raise their level based on the stigma of their transcendent constellation. However, the power of a metahuman's stigma and constellation is important, and being able to use their stigma is also very crucial. Feeling embarrassed, Kwon asks Lee to have a look at his stigma, making Lee impressed as he watches that it's the stigma of 12 signs. But in reality, this guy Kwon made the stigma on his body with a blade when he decided to go through with scamming people. He reckons that it's a symbol he went through hell to make, so of course everyone should know what it is. Having a good feeling about this, Kwon is halfway through fooling the poor guy Lee, informing him that it's a low-ranking gate yet very competitive, so they should enter the gate carefully. Cajoling him into doing this, the guy informs Lee that he will cast a debuff on him before they fight and get started. Meanwhile, Kwon uses his star sign Aquarius power to activate mini-LED to brighten up the darkness for the lowly disciple Lee. It turns out that the guy is actually sprinkling glass powder mixed with fluorescent paint to create the illuminating light. However, he successfully fools Lee as the poor guy gets excited and gets to experience the power of stigma. Surprisingly, he feels like his body is getting warmer, and every single one of his cells is awakening, happily thanking Kwon for the debuff. While the poor guy enthusiastically plans to show his skills, the evil Ojin laughs in the corner as Lee swallows the glass powder that's not good for him. Thanks to his fake debuff, Lee's body feels lighter, and he activates the unexpected enlightenment. Flattered by his skills, Ojin finds better than other metahumans that he've met before, and at this rate, he will earn a minimum of 300,000 won. While Lee does all the hard work, the guy plans to recover all the mirror crystals. Holding the crystal, Ojin ponders that he can't let an item that can infuse stigma power fall into someone else's hands. Back then, Kwon thought that he hit the jackpot, but little did he know the fact that their surroundings were eerily quiet. Something unexpected happens as Lee freaks out when he witnesses numerous anthorns blocking their way. As Lee calls out Kwon to run this way, Ojin speculates that something is wrong with spending several years in these low-ranking gates, but he's never seen an abnormal amount of anthorns before. Running for their lives, Lee screams that the anthorns are fast and that they aren't able to put any distance between them, finding it impossible to outrun them. Suddenly, Shin-yuk strangely looks at Ojin, and that's when the guy realizes that he's up to something. To his surprise, Lee kicks Kwon in the face, using him as the scapegoat, and with fear in his eyes, he keeps apologizing to him as he escapes away, calling him son of a bitch. Poor Ojin is left helpless as he trips to the ground while Lee justifies that at this rate, they both would die. Yelling they should fucking die together, the scammer guy is betrayed by Lee. However, at that moment, an unexplainable situation occurs. Unexpectedly, something happens to Lee as he's unable to withstand the stigma and collapses. While he is left shocked to see what just happened to Lee now, he rushes to him to see if he has anything on him. Thinking about what he'd do if he dies like this, he goes through Lee's body and witnesses the stigma that he's seen for the first time, recalling that Shin-yuk was a Pixis. Just then, the first enlightenment of the Black Heavens starts. Something appears all of a sudden. Well, it turns out that Kwon Ojin is taken to the goddess Vega's timeline where she mistakes him for the regressor Lee Shin-yuk. Unknowingly, this guy becomes a regressor who is a person who goes back in time. But even the regression doesn't distract him as he thinks about his future 5 minutes later, where he will be getting ripped to pieces from those anthorns. Just then, Ojin realizes that she said something about him possessing a stigma that no one else possesses. While he's sure that it's Lee Shin-yuk's stigma, the guy is baffled as the stigma that has appeared on his left chest he's never seen in his life. Unaware of the reason, Ojin seems to know one thing for sure, and that is, he used the power of Black Heavens, absorbing the dead Lee Shin-yuk's stigma. However, it's not Pixis' stigma, but Lyra's stigma that leads him to conclude that Lee was the regressor. Unraveling the unknown, the guy gets to know that the phenomenon where Shin-yuk emitted blue-colored lighting before he died, that's when he absorbed his stigma. In other words, Lee Shin-yuk, who regressed, couldn't defeat the stigma and died as an after-effect. And from that moment on, the power of the Black Heavens activated, and stigma came to Kwon Ojin. Meanwhile, the guy is still puzzled about the situation about how he got Lee's stigma. He eventually yanks out his thoughts when Goddess Vega asks him if he's not the regressor. The goddess is certain that she felt the unheavenly star here, and Kwon responds to her, admitting that he's the regressor. In the back of his mind, he has no idea what Black Heavens is for an unheavenly star. He doesn't even know the name of the goddess in front of him. With all the chaos in his mind and in order to survive, Ojin decides to live as a regressor. He needs to be a regressor even if he has to scam God, and that's what he's best at. After that, the goddess believes in him that he's the unheavenly star, and it leaves our guy stunned, thinking that she just believed in that lie. A transcendent who possesses the power that a mere human could not imagine possessing, and even after that, the devious Ojin manages to scam the existence like God. Feeling kinda proud, our guy wonders if he's going to get fucked for this. Nonetheless, Vega cuts to the chase, saying that although she wants to talk about all the details of the future he went through, these annoying anthrones are getting in her way. Smiling brightly, the goddess lets out that she looks forward to seeing the limit of the unheavenly star's power, referring to Quan. Being quick-witted as he is, the guy gets the hunch that the goddess is telling him to get rid of the monsters and prove his powers right now. While the goddess assures him not to feel pressured and just fight, our guy is scared to death as he already feels pressured about what Vega said. Confronting the growling anthrones, Ojin holds the stick and the powers seem to be seeping out of him as his body feels light as a feather. He uplifts himself and thinks that he might be a lowly one star, but he now has the body of a metahuman. As the anthrones leap toward to attack him, Ojin impressively rips them apart in one strike. While the goddess observes his powers, our guy fights off the anthrones like a pro, and he is amazed by his powers as he's annihilating the monsters like a walk in a park. Just then, he acquires Pixis's Spear Arts level 4. However, Ojin senses something strange with his head all of a sudden. The scene switches to Lee Shin-hyuk, who seems to be panting heavily and thinks that he will never be able to catch up with his brother Lee Woo-hyuk if he keeps going like this. Well, it turns out that Lee Shin-hyuk's memory is being played in Ojin's mind. He speculates that Lee has a scar he's never seen before, and judging from that, he surmises that this isn't a memory of the past. This leads him to think that it's the memory of Lee Shin-hyuk from the first time. Memories from the future. It appears that along with Lee's memories, Pixis's skills are flowing right in as well. But being this strong, Ojin wonders if one-star metahumans are really this strong, because the one-star metahumans he remembers weren't that strong. Meanwhile, our guy manages to kill all the anthrones effortlessly. The goddess tells him to stop and asks if he's putting on a show for her entertainment. Upon hearing this, the poor guy is kinda shocked. Vega clears the air and asks him why he's not using her stigma. This surprises Ojin even more as he presumes that all this time he had all that power without even using the stigma. And our guy understands as he stares at her with eyes wide open. Vega further elucidates that even for a regressor like him, it must have been hard to use his new stigma, like stepping into the body of a child who's just started to walk. Ojin contemplates that the goddess is making sense of it all on her own. But our guy can't seem to pass an opportunity like this. It's pretty much like he's in the body of a newborn baby right now. Excited to be baby Ojin, Vega takes on her job to help the baby with his first steps, making our guy flustered as a goddess gives him an enticing offer. Just then, the goddess blesses with the blessing of a star, and the proficiency of the Lyra's stigma boosts temporarily. Thinking that he's heard of this name, suddenly, he is hit by powerful shocks, and the poor guy screams in pain as the blue energy is absorbed in him, pleading with the goddess to at least give him a proper warning before doing shit like this as it hurts. After enduring the pain which felt like hell, the power blue thunder activates, and when Ojin comes to his senses, he witnesses the havoc in just one swoop, and is left astonished. Hit by a sudden realization, he surmises that a one-star metahuman isn't capable of something like this, which means the metahuman must have reached 2-star, or rather 3-star, for him to even imitate it. While he thinks about the notification he just received from Vega, the goddess acknowledges the regressor and remarkable learning speed. At that moment, Ojin addresses her weaving women's star, and realizes that it's the real Vega. It is then revealed to us that there are hundreds of constellations, and although they are transcendents, even constellations are divided into those with greater and weaker authority, and the power of metahumans varies according to the rank of constellations. Among them are supreme beings that even the 12 zodiacs dare not look down on. That includes Polaris, Deneb, and Vega. Vega is one of the highest-ranking constellations, and the other constellations dare not raise their head in front of her. While thinking all this, Ojin is thunderstruck to even think that the highest-ranked constellation Vega is actually by his side. Not to mention that he's scamming the goddess. Well, it looks like our main character finally gives up on scamming life. Thinking that he's screwed, he plans on telling the goddess that he's not the regressor and actually lied about it because he was scared as shit of dying. But then, he changes his mind. Thinking that the water's already under the bridge, the guy low-key freaks out as he seems to be ridiculing a god as a mere mortal, assuming that she'd kill him right away. As the fear of the goddess frightens the life out of him, Ojin ruminates that he started this so gotta end it now, and have to fool Vega no matter what. In case that happens, our guy comes up with a weird idea possible as he starts acting lovey-dovey with the goddess, saying that he missed her. Thinking he will never see her again, Ojin holds her hand while Vega is taken aback by his sudden actions, and makes her question what kind of relationship they have in the future. Meanwhile, Kwon Ojin with his top-notch acting skills successfully fools the goddess, thinking he got through. Being a dramatic ass, he's aware that she doesn't have any memories of him and gets back to acting again, assuring her that it's nothing at all, and apologizes to her. Confused as hell, the goddess, taking it as a big deal, asks Kwon about their relationship in the future, to which the guy responds that he promises to tell her in the future, while acting mushy, putting on a look as if he's through a lot. Vega concludes that the reason he's acting this way is because eventually she will be annihilated. Hearing such a thing, Ojin doesn't get a thing through his head as he wonders what she means, while the goddess goes on to reveal that all the constellations, including her, will be devoured by the darkness of the black heavens, as it is destined to happen. Well, our guy doesn't give a shit about what she's saying and acts like he knows this shit. Abruptly, the guy gets a little serious when he hears the name Black Heavens. Confirming if the goddess really took that name, Vega lets out that it's master of the Black Heavens, and if they let him be, the world will once again head towards destruction. Laughing it off, Ojin seems to be screaming inside as the power Vega is talking about is the same power he possesses. Our main character comes to a realization that he's eventually going to destroy the whole world, and now he's back for the same purpose. As Ojin blooms with joy as he discovers his fate, Vega, on the other hand, takes a pledge that Kwon will not be devoured by the Black Heavens as she shall protect him. Holding her hand, our guy takes the bet while the goddess, addressing him as Kwon Ojin, decides to light up the painstaking path in front of him with her starlight as she, the weaving woman star, makes a big mistake of her lifetime, appoints him as an apostle. Left in disbelief, Ojin is overwhelmed as he's now the apostle of Vega and thinks that there's no going back now. Just then, the goddess witnesses a guy lying on the ground and asks him who's that child. Creating another story, our guy informs her that he's an extremely wicked guy who will loot innocent people in the future. After that, Ojin gets reminded that what Lee Shin-yuk did to him was the essence of maliciousness and wishes that he doesn't resent him much. Nonetheless, Vega tells him to keep one last thing in mind, when suddenly she experiences a hint of pain. Wishing to talk more, the goddess halts as the constraints of commandments seem to have started after all. Well, it appears that when Vega blessed Kwon earlier indirectly, her actions violated the commandments. She confesses that she's being bound by commandments that cannot interfere in this world, and tells Ojin that she's leaving, instructing him to come to the sanctuary where she resides in a week. As soon as Vega disappears, our guy is befuddled with so much shit happening one after another, which makes him go mad. But he calms himself thinking that he has attained the stigma of one of the North Star constellations. He then peeks at Lee Shin-yuk's dead boy, uttering that thanks to him his life took a U-turn. The next scene takes us to the real world, where Ojin buys himself a burger on his way back home. Entering his home, a girl seems to be waiting for him, saying that he's a bit late today. The girl turns out to be Song Hae-eun, the woman who became Kwon's sole support in his hellish orphanage life. She jokes around, saying that he should have hurried and given her a cigarette, while Ojin mutters that she's bullshitting as soon as he comes. Bickering, Song tells him to call her Nuna as she's 2 years older than him. After that, he hands her the burger, and that's when we get to know that Hae-eun is a metahuman, but she's currently lost her right leg and is blind in both eyes. As a consequence, Kwon is taking after her, unlike when they were younger, but still, their persistent relationship that has continued since the time of their orphanage carried on even after they left that place, although it's precarious and messy. Meanwhile, Song is delighted by that delicious burger. Our guy tells her that it's from a restaurant and not some frozen patty. Hearing this, the girl freaks out as she can't believe it and asks Kwon if he's hurt somewhere or if the monster hit his head. Well, our guy clarifies that he got some money. He ponders that he wanted to earn the slightest more money, since there's something he needs to buy at all costs. With a suspicious look in Song's eyes, Ojin changes the topic and lets out that she has got sauce on her face, telling her to eat. Our guy jokes around, saying she's ugly all the same whether she has sauce on her mouth or not. Just then, he informs her that he will be buying a big Perset's burger from now on instead of frozen patties. Noticing the sudden shift in burgers, Song gets the gist that something happened and our guy can't seem to hide anything from her, revealing that he became a metahuman. After a while, Ojin finally gets time for himself as he sits on a swing, thinking that it already got this late just from explaining things to Song, and maybe it makes sense for her to be surprised. While it appears that Hae-eun does not take it well and bombard him with questions, he wonders how he is supposed to explain that he's scamming a constellation and that he's a regressor. Getting his act together, Ojin decides to organize things once at a time. First, he sorts out the Black Heavens thing and lists all the abilities he's got. As he also currently possesses Lyra's stigma, he thinks about this mystery that ate Lee Shin-yuk's stigma, and concludes that Black Heavens is originally unrelated to Lee's regression, but he's sure he still had it. According to Vega, the being that possessed Black Heaven would bring the future world to ruin, which means future Ojin will bring destruction to this world. While our guy stresses about recalling what exactly happened to him in past life, he decides not to get caught because the moment he is caught he has Black Heavens. It will be unveiled that he's not the regressor, but a third party who absorbed the regressor's stigma. With all these things in mind, Ojin wonders why he is given the power, but the biggest issue is what he does with it now. Lying down, he thinks deeply about what he can do to appear more like a regressor. Firstly, if he manages to receive Vega's acknowledgement, he won't be suspected. But for that, Ojin plans to raise the star of Lyra's stigma, and by next week, he needs to be at least a 2-star. Touching his stigma, he realizes that he's already overflowing with mana, so he only needs to handle the stigma and decides to go to the gate soon. As soon as he heads back inside, Ojin receives a notification about an abnormality outbreak and the possibility of a mutant appearing. This emerges to be the gate Ojin went in, and our guy already seems to know that it was suspicious for anthromes to travel in groups, which made no sense, concluding that it was an abnormality after all. The guy then narrates that mutants refer to the monsters who mutate every so often. Depending on the situation, there are cases where they are weaker in their original forms, but typically, the mutated forms tend to be much stronger than their original forms. Mutants are monsters that new 1-star metahumans cannot dare to overcome. Recalling his confrontation with the anthrones, he didn't see any mutants back then, wondering if he missed them because he wasn't in a situation to worry about them. Smiling at his screen, Ojin seems to have selected his next destination, to fight the mutants.